still things to learn, but I still had a hands-on approach. Being an AC was my film school, bro.
Hey everyone, if the DMV has world-class talent, why doesn't it have world-class production volume? That question comes up every time a big show rolls through town and then disappears, leaving local filmmakers asking the same thing. What actually has to change for this region, the DMV, to become a real film hub? In today's episode, I'm sitting with Alan Adeleke, a DMV filmmaker with deep experience in the camera department and director's chair. He breaks down the practical side of building a career here and the structural things holding the ecosystem back. We talk about why he treated being an AC, an assistant camera, as his own film school, how sustainability in this region often comes down to a few things: excellence, referrals, and timing, and why incentives, union access, and policy decisions can determine whether productions stay or they never come back at all. If you're a filmmaker trying to build in the DMV, or you simply care about what it would take for DC, Maryland, and Virginia to grow into a real production economy, this is a conversation you'll get value from. From Allegory Productions, and we'll name this agency later, this is the opening scene with Cam Lawson and Alan Adeleke. Alan, thank you for joining us, man. Super excited.
Yeah.
We're going to dive into your whole journey. I'm excited to learn just how you got to this point where you are now. And we were talking a little bit before about your writing journey as you start to jump into directing features.
Yes.
But I have to start with the thing that I just saw your name on more recently. Vertical series as a director. Pitch Please. Talk to me about that project.
Pitch Please, man. That is something new to me. Vertical is something I haven't done before.
New to everyone.
Right? We just wanted to, be one of the first to do it in the area. Verticals are hot in different countries, and we haven't really had a chance to see verticals. At least I haven't prior to shooting Pitch Please. So it was new for us. But we also aren't afraid to be different. Aren't afraid to take that first step and pioneer something. At least in our area. So yeah, Pitch Please. It's a comedy. It's fun. It's interesting. It's about two dynamic Black women who take over operations of this new studio, and they're faced with all these different challenges. They have these different artists, eccentric artists who come in, and it's unorthodox and unexpected. That's pretty much how you can describe it. Comedic chaos.
Yeah, comedic chaos.
And so we wanted to show Black women in this light. Different experiences they go through. You'll see a lot of that in season 2, which we're about to go into pre-production. We're in pre-production now. Already did some writing and collaborating with our team. We're really excited for what we have in store. We'll be launching more episodes this season.
Okay.
And we are in a new location as well. So
exciting new developments. Yeah, I almost want to be like, you got some funding behind it now, but it's like we're not going to go deep into that. No,
still haven't. We're still looking for funding.
Is that the goal? Like for this to be not just something that you're doing as like a rep, if you will, of like working on writing and directing, but is it something that you and the team are hoping to be sustainable?
We are. Okay. It initially started as a rep. We were like, what, we usually don't move unless we get a call from production, that's followed up with a rate, how much are we getting paid? And then that's when you see everyone show up. And
right.
That was becoming, synonymous across this area in the DMV when it comes to creatives. And we're like, well, how can we, get out and make a difference and get out and be creative, get out and not just wait on that production call. What can we do now? With our resources, me being a director, working camera department, actors who, may be doing the same thing. I know a lot of people try to prepare and get ready for that call, but why not just go out and get out and get started on it now? What can we do together in a time that we have, when it gets slow?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we initially started out as it being a rep, and we got a call recently from a potential investor who was interested in, some funding, and
Yeah.
like, okay, well, maybe it could be a little bit more than the rep, you know. Maybe this can be
Talking
sustainable.
about throwing money, let
you
me
know. What I'm
know.
saying?
Like,
You know, what's up? Call me. You know,
we can do this again. I got you.
Exactly.
You mentioned like you're part of the writing team and also directing.
Yeah.
At least on season 2. I'm not sure about season 1, but is creating a vertical in the experience or directing a vertical different or anyway? I mean, you're still having to develop a scene. You're still having to have characters, and like you still have all the different elements. It's just now like a different container, if you will.
That's what's different,
right. So like, is it still the same story, still the same function, but the episodes they're shorter. There's it's quicker, so you have to hit those beats a little bit differently. How has it felt writing and directing on it?
See, it's a different flex. I didn't write for season 1.
Okay.
That was all done by Magnif, our co-producer, creator. But it definitely puts you in a box where you're only given 3 minutes, and you have to create within the confines of vertical image. And for me, it felt abnormal because I'm not used to that. I'm used to seeing more in my frame, So I remember, setting up our first shot, and I'm like, wait, I'm so used to seeing more of the world. Well, how can I show this world and still make you feel like you're a part of it, in this limited amount of time, still make you understand and laugh, and also keep it interesting, keep it new, keep it fresh. And that was something that was new, that it was something that I wasn't necessarily prepared for.
Yeah.
Looking at that first frame, I was like, okay, wow, but it over the course of continuously working on it, continuously shooting and getting out there and flexing that muscle, it's become like a second nature. Something that I look forward to, something our team looks forward to.
Good. You talked about writing, directing. You didn't write on the first one. You're going to jump into writing. You're writing on the second season.
Not so much writing, but just in the writer's room.
Okay.
So we are collaborating more as a team when it comes to writing in the second season. Looking more at story, and since we're in this new location, how can we bring all our collective minds together, create a more natural writing room, and still keep the funny.
What's a natural writing room to you? Writing rooms have come under fire in so many different ways. Smaller writing rooms, obviously, like Writers Guild, like the strikes that happened previously, like they're pushing for a certain size of writers' room. When we're talking about verticals, again, like there might not be the structure. We're not talking about union project anyway. So like, what does a writer's room for you all look like?
I know, right? Being totally independent and never
really
being into
writer's room could be like, your kitchen table with like 2 or 3 different people, and it's a different like process. But so for y'all, like, what is that?
Exactly, and so that's what it can be when you're talking about independent. There are no rules, so to speak. We just come together, and we figure out, well, this is the space that we're in. These are our limitations. How can we navigate this story, knowing what our end goal is, and touching on those different arcs that we want to have with, our different characters and people that we want to bring into the story. Like, how can we navigate this second season and be successful? What does success look like? When we were very vulnerable when we put out the first season. We didn't know what people were going to expect, but we see, when you see those laughing emojis and people in your DM saying this was great, they loved it. It gives you that sense of security and peace to let you know that it all wasn't in vain.
For sure, you're going in the right direction at that point.
Exactly. So to answer your question about the writers' room, it's really just the core Pitch Please team. It's probably like 4 or 5 of us, if a handful of us coming together and discussing the story, breaking it down. Does this make sense? What does this look like if this character does this? Okay, well, throw this wrench in there, and figure out how to switch things up and keep it interesting.
Very collaborative spirit. I mean, especially when it's that tight knit, and you say your writers' room is composed of your actors as well. Like, I assume like your producers, your directors. Like it's all like the multi-hyphenate playing the roles of the independent. There's no like silos. Exactly. There's all across the board, same communication. I love that. Now, we talked about the verticals at first, but that's not your first parlay into like the whole filmmaking community in the first place, though. Like that was just like the most recent thing I saw.
Yeah.
From my understanding, though, like I always historically when I've seen the type of work that you're a part of, it's usually in this first AC role.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that really where it started for you when it got into like the filmmaking space? Was as a first AC? I'm sorry, first assistant camera for people who may not be familiar with the terms.
No.
Okay.
My experience, my creative experience started with poetry, spoken word. I was a spoken word artist. I moved in a lot of the DMV underground spoken word nights, and really took a chance on myself. It was abnormal for me because I wasn't used to being in a space where all eyes were on me and I had to speak. So it was a weakness of mine initially, speaking in front of a large audience, but it's something I loved. So just because you love something doesn't mean it's going to love you back, So that was my thought process going into it. And it's like, well, how can I get better at this? And so poetry navigated me through working with Orville the poet, who was one of the first individuals who took me by the wings and showed me what it meant to be a real poet, you know what I'm saying? And speaking in a lot of like black spaces, it really paved the way for me and gave me my creative start. And from there, I moved into writing after watching an interview with Ice Cube where he was talking about John Singleton, and I'm a big fan of Ice Cube and just his trajectory as a writer, as a creative. And one thing that I remember seeing was Ice Cube said that John Singleton told him, if you can write a 3 to 4 minute song, you can write a film, And I was like
a fefeature, short?
Feature, yeah,
whoa,
feature.
Okay.
Like, you can do it. And I was like, what? I was like, really? And my poetry at the time was 3 to 5 minutes long. I was able to, I was performing in front of 300 people, 100 people, and people were moved by my words. So I knew that story, I could just, that process of creating story and putting story together, I could maybe put that into a screenplay. And so I took the chance on myself again and started writing and turned that into my first concept trailer, which snowballed into meeting different production companies such as like Megamind Media here in the DMV, Octet Productions, and I was a PA at the time, but I knew that wasn't my end goal. That was just my way in.
Yeah.
And from there, I realized that the AC was the closest to the director, and my end goal was directing.
Okay.
I wanted to be a director. I wanted to produce. I wanted to write. I was already writing, but how do I get in this world and figure out peel back the layers of, that are so gate-kept, I guess you can say, for those who don't have access to the industry. I didn't grow up in the industry, so I didn't know anything about it. How do I get there? And so PA to AC, and Megamind Media gave me the opportunity to work closely as an AC with different directors like Vivica Fox, Victoria Rao, who else? Megan Good. A lot of black women really shaped my trajectory in the industry and gave me my start.
Shout out to the black women.
Shout out to black women, and I'm always going to support them and push them. In the best way that I can. So shout out to Big Band Productions, Krishna Murray. Gave me my first start at directing my first short film. Keisha Hill Jones, my latest feature film, I'll Find You, gave me my opportunity to do that. Beretta Francis, the next feature that I'll be directing, she gave me that opportunity. And so many other black women who have opened the doors for me. Shout out to them, and they got my heart, and I'm always going to support them.
It sounds like you've gotten, maybe you might not have achieved that goal, but you've gotten much closer to that goal of like the ultimate goal of being a director. You have opportunities to open the doors for you. You are directing verticals, you're directing features. You have some, plays that or screenplays you're working on that you assume will be directing as well.
Yeah.
That journey through the AC, I just kind of want to bounce back to it. I'm going to talk to your directing a little bit soon, but just the AC part of it, you had said that's the closest to the director.
Yeah.
You're in the camera department as an assistant camera, and you're not even the DP.
Yeah. Right.
So it's like, but you, in your eyes, like you see you're still the closest. Help me understand for people who just like may not be on sets or if you're trying to get on sets, like why that first AC role in your mind was like, that gets me close, as opposed to like a script supervisor, as opposed to like a DP and all these other roles that you would think be closer. Yeah. First AC was your way in. How did you see it that way?
So the first, it was second AC or camera PA to second AC to first AC. But, you know, and that's like the trajectory in the camera department. You start as a camera PA or, you know, and then you go from that to like a second AC and the first AC. You know, there are other roles, but that was my process. And, you know, from what I saw as a PA, witnessing actual being on the set of like a BET set, you know, and seeing how things were operating, I was like, okay, well, I saw the Griffin Electrics. They were outside, you know, and it was cold. It was cold. It was raining. And I was like, I don't think I want to do that. And I saw sound department and, you know, you see all these different departments, hair, makeup, wardrobe, art department. And I knew my weakness at that time when I first started in the industry was camera. You know, that was my weakness. Like, I didn't really know much about camera. So I feel like in order for me to be a better director, I need to master camera. That was just my thought process. So in order to master camera, I want to see it closer to, first of all, I saw second AC. I saw him operate. He was laying tape, marks for the actors, and he was next to the director. And so after
even the
that,
smallest of things.
You know what I'm saying? Even the smallest thing, and very humbling role. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I had to step outside after that as a PA and go lock up. You know, so I'm like, I'm missing all the action. And so it was my goal to, at that point, figure out how do I get to this AC role. And so I started working closely with the camera department, trying to assist them in any different way I could and show them that I was passionate about this. I didn't know anything, but I was passionate, I was eager, and, you know, I was putting in the work.
Yeah.
So once I made my way into the camera department and I was working as that second AC, I was in the room with the actors and the director as they were giving notes. Like, I'm laying tape, you know, and the director's giving her actors notes. She's blocking, and I'm hearing that. I'm seeing how she's talking to them. And I'm mirroring that to my own process as a director because I've already directed my own concept trailer. I've been in that hot seat. And so I'm like, wow, they're doing things that I did. Like, they're speaking to the actors that in the way that I spoke to. And I still, there were still things to learn, but I still had a hands-on approach. Being an AC was my film school, bro. It was my film school because I couldn't afford film school. So I was like, well, how do I?
You got paid for film school.
You know what I'm saying?
You got paid being on those AC positions, those PA positions, and up to that space, and especially when you get to those first ACs and second, to your point, you're in the room.
In the room, bro. In the room. Telling story as a first AC, pulling focus. Like, the director's like, will say, well, I want you to rack focus when you think it's time. So it's like, okay, well, you know, the actor turns, and then I'm like racking, and they're like, see, you know, so it's like, okay, I'm learning storytelling in a different way as working in camera, and also mastering camera, understanding focal lengths and why we choose this lens, or why this camera, or why this filter is put in front of the lens to give this certain effect, or you know, why we use this type of tripod for this camera because of the weight, you know, and just learning all these different things. So now I know what it takes to, you know, like, run a camera department efficiently, and I can speak the language as a director, you know.
I'm saying simultaneously, as much as you're learning about the camera department, to that point, you are learning the director's chair. Exactly. You are learning in all these different aspects because you are in those close circles at that point. I'm sure you're hearing of all the different roles that are talking to the director because you're close. Exactly. You're seeing what the director needs as support. You're seeing what the director needs as creativity, so forth, left and right, excuse me. I have to ask this question real quick, though, too. Are most of your AC roles that you were able to get, were they from this area or in this area?
Most of them were. AC, being an AC has taken me to Kenya, South Africa, Nairobi, Kenya, St. Kitts, Nevis, Los Angeles. Like being an AC has allowed me to see the world, you know.
I love that.
In different places, and I'm grateful for that, you know. Thank God.
I asked that question too because sometimes people who are living in this area, not everyone, I'm sure there's circles of people who are saying like it's tough to sustain a filmmaking career in this area. And it's not like it's LA, it's not like New York where they're having 400 shows a year. Yeah. This one might only have, or 400 movies a year. Like there's constant production. Like here, it might not be that, but you have found a way to sustain, not again for all jobs being in this area, but most of your jobs you just mentioned are from this area. How did you find a way to sustain that, which I assume is a full-time role for you? You're not trying to parlay a government job or like another part-time job. Exactly. Like you're talking about from the long days you're saying on set, it's almost impossible. You have to fully commit to it. How did you find ways to make it work here?
First, I gotta give shout out to God, you know, for keeping me. You know, you really gonna lean on God as an independent filmmaker in the DMV. You know, I don't know how you make it without him.
Amen.
But I gotta give shout outs to 6 Point Productions, 6 Point Pictures. I'm sorry, out of Baltimore. My boy Jamar, Alexis, and Kirby. You know, they've created opportunities for me.
I think they're shouting them out too.
I know, right? Yeah,
I think that's really what's happening right now.
Yeah. Shout out to 6 Point Pictures, Jamar, Alexis, and Kirby. They've been a major deciding factor in like my employment as an AC.
Wow.
They stand on excellence, and so that has it allowed me to see already. I bring excellence to my job, but seeing a black production move in such excellence and get booked on big jobs, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like really staple makers in this area, and I think worldwide when it comes to like the art of cinema. And you know, outside of that, just the way I carry myself as an AC, that like I said, that excellence that you have to have, you're not afforded to make mistakes. You know, like yeah, you can buzz a shot here or there when it comes to focus, but like you got to be sharp, man. You know, like time is money in production,
yeah.
And so I had to invest in myself when it came to purchasing gear that's needed for the role, and then being excellent at the job. You know, and there aren't many opportunities, so you can't afford to not be great at your job. And so when you're great at your job and you're excellent, you get that call back, you get that referral, and that's how I've sustained myself through God and those referrals, and being excellent at the job has created room for me to leave my 9-to-5 in 2021 and be a full-time filmmaker as a result.
Post-COVID at that too, it sounds like.
Bro,
yeah.
Straight up.
That's beautiful.
Straight up.
You talked about some of the highs of like the travel aspect, the excellence, and you showing up and knocking out the park, and like the people who are constantly coming back and screaming your name for I need you as my first AC and in the camera department and also in the director's chair.
Yeah.
What are some of the challenges you've been able to overcome and experience within this back and forth between camera department, AC roles, and then also director's roles?
Well, I would say when challenges, you're always going to have challenges in being a filmmaker. It's you're challenged as soon as you turn the camera on, bro. You know, because you can do all this prep work and pre-production and have your shot list, and then something could happen on day one of production, and you automatically have to figure out, well, how do I pivot? Is the word that Octet Production uses. Shout out to Chuck West. Knowing how to pivot and really you're your own entity in the industry. If you're full time, you usually operate through your own business. So you have to learn to be disciplined in your spending when you saving, and also making sure you get the call back. If you don't get the call back, then if you're not going to get the call back, don't be late. the set. Be likable.
Mm-hmm.
That's people say that. My smile or my energy, is welcoming, and once again I give that up to God. But those are things that make it less challenging. I would say, bro, honestly, I don't think that the only challenge is is if you wait on the phone to call, when someone to call you, not creating an opportunity. Because if you create the opportunity, or if you market yourself, I don't think that you really have challenges.
How are you creating your opportunities? I mean, to your point, when you show up on the job and like people are like, "Yes, I want Alan back." You mentioned some productions, Megamind, Octec, and 6 Point. Like these are productions they're constantly have people calling them, or they're constantly working on projects. So maybe you don't necessarily have to go find or create the opportunities, but there are slow seasons, right?
In some cases, that's the case, but most filmmakers or actors even have to pick up a second job. Sometimes you have to do something like that. Like thank God for like Uber. Thank God for the
the side hustles.
The side hustles.
Yeah.
You gotta figure it out if you want to stay in this industry. It's not easy, bro. Like you may see your favorite actor, working as a waiter, somewhere, and no shade. Like you gotta get it. You got a family, you gotta provide. We've seen that in different places. So you can't be. You have to humble yourself. You can't be too big or too prideful, thinking that you're the man or you're the woman. You know what I'm saying? Like you're doomed to fail. You have to have an open mind, open heart, and be willing to be humble, bro. Period. At the end of the day, I think that makes the biggest difference.
You mentioned sustaining in this area. Do you believe it's possible to actually have a sustainable filmmaking career in this area?
Man, it's tough. It's tough because you think that things are consistent one season, and then things are booming, and then we had COVID happen, and then you're like, okay, maybe it's not, and then things pick back up. Then the writer strike happens.
The dual strike, yeah,
and then it's like
actor strike as well,
right,
yeah.
Maybe it's not sustainable. Then you figure out a way to. Then you start thinking about things like owning a home and having a family. Like it's tough.
It's an expensive place to own a home and have a family.
It is, bro.
But I mean, LA does. So I guess it's maybe in what you're saying too is just like it's tough to do it. But I guess the other part of it is just not enough work here to do it then. Because LA is expensive, New York is expensive, Atlanta is not probably as expensive, but like
it's definitely not enough work.
It's just I think that's where. So, because I'm starting to think, you mentioned companies who have had success. Like, they're not, but I also don't think they're only just doing films. Maybe they are. Like, I'm sure Octec might only be doing majority films and possibly TV series. The same with Megamind. And they might not necessarily only just doing them here. Yeah. And they're doing other places. But, like, what in your mind, as an active participant in this industry here, do you feel like this area needs in order for it to attract more projects or attract more support, consistency? What is it that I feel like we're missing?
I think it's going to come down to like policy and incentives on the film incentives when it comes to that kickback that productions can get for tax breaks and different things like that to make it appealing to larger production companies to want to film here. There's so much from what I've heard red tape when it comes to filming in DC, things like that. So it's not easy to film.
What do you feel like is the red tape in DC?
Just the permits that you may have to get, or not being able to film in a certain place, certain things like that. But PG County being the richest, black county,
So that's my mind of it, right? So it's like in thinking about like, okay, permit process might be tough, right? Studios aren't coming, incentives and things like that are a thing. But we're also in one of the richer areas, metropolitan areas in America. And so like if Netflix isn't about to come here and drop 20 million. Not to say that every project has to be 20 million. I think there's a lot of micro budget films that are able to sustain here. There's a lot of people who are possibly having really good ideas that you could probably make for less than $1 million. And it could look really good nowadays with like the low bar of entry for what a good camera costs, a good crew might cost, and even just the product if you're thinking of the non-sci-fi, like high budget like films. Yeah. And there's a lot of capital here. There's a lot of financial wealth here.
There is.
So I think we have money here and the everyday people.
Yeah, we have BWI, you have Reagan.
You have the logistics to get people here.
You do.
You have iconic monuments. You have like the landscape, the diversity of it here. Yep. And from what I understand and what I've experienced, we have some of the best, if not the best crews.
We do.
Housed in Maryland, D.C., and Virginia.
We do.
So my thought is like still, is it really incentives? Like, because we could really just do it on our own.
We could, but then the funding comes into play, needing the funding.
So is it not the understanding of, I'm not putting you on the spot. It's just like in the thought and the flow of the conversation right now. It's, I'm sure there are, ignoring the athlete side of it, I'm sure there are high wealth 6 or 7 figure individuals in this area. There are. You find 5 people willing to give 20,000.
We set.
What film you about to go do? Like, how many films you about to go do?
Exactly.
Because you know how to, at least from the indie filmmaking like viewpoint of things, you know how to make it work with less.
And that was honestly the goal for me starting out. How do I get this done for less? How do I get it done? Like from pre-production to distribution, what does it take to produce something from a blank sheet of paper? Now we've got a 90, 100-page script. How do we get that to the finish line? I figured that out. I've discovered that process of what it takes and to do it well, and the different crew members that it takes to get it done are here. I know them. You know what I'm saying? I'm one of them. So it exists. It's here. I think it's just a maybe. I could be wrong, but it's just a matter of everyone realizing that, oh, you're here. You exist. You're up the street. Okay, well, let's get together. Let's make this happen. Let's figure out how we can get this done. I think once we get to that point where everybody is on one accord, perhaps, one band, one sound, maybe we can get it done.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, who needs to be the band leader? One band, one sound, right? Like that's
maybe not one, multiple bands.
Well, I mean, because I feel like I've heard the question before,
yeah.
And you mentioned so many in this area. Like, there's a lack of community here. Mm-hmm. Right? There's a lot of community here.
There is.
There's a lot of different parts of community here.
Yeah.
There are people who are making documentaries. There's a massive community for that. Like, there are people who are making it on a consistent basis of indie film. Big community here for that. Like, there's people who are, at least from the television side, like there's a whole news like conglomerate of different stations here. There's nonprofit here when you think of like the PBS Central Hub, and then also the various PBS member stations that are here. Right. I feel like we have infrastructure. We might be missing like the studios, the locations from like the warehouses and things on those lines. Mm-hmm. But I feel like there are a lot of different pieces that are already here to make it thrive. Is it because we're trying to be LA?
And I think, so that's a good point. And if you look at it historically, most crews in LA they don't look like us.
Correct. I would absolutely.
And so the limitation in that regard, I was having a conversation with a group of individuals in Baltimore, and they're saying that the inability to get into certain unions. So even if those big shows come here, the crew members that aren't in the unions aren't going to be able to work on them. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So they're just going to bring union crew members from out of state to come work. So it still doesn't really solve that problem.
Yeah.
So I think it's a matter that's kind of like where things just kind of get a little gray, in that area.
That's tough. Because now, if I hear you correctly, it's like Netflix comes, but they're all obviously union. So like they come here. You and I aren't getting an opportunity because we're not union. Exactly. Are you?
I'm not.
Yeah. So like the big show comes here, the funding comes here. Like, but does it really lead to opportunities for everyone at that point? And at least what you're saying, I could be wrong. I'm not putting words in your mouth. I'll just make sure I hear it correctly. Mm-hmm. It's tough to get into that union membership and sustain that union membership.
It is.
Okay.
It is. I've spoken to a lot of individuals as a result of the recent strike. who were union members and gave up, you know, those union rights, and because they couldn't afford it, you know, and it's expensive, you know, when the work isn't flowing, but you know you still want to keep your benefits, you know, and you got to pay these dues, and just to get in to the union, the camera union alone, it's not cheap, bro. You know,
yeah,
we're talking like minimum 8 bands, you know, and so. Yeah, I mean, I don't have that.
Just now. Wow,
I don't have
man.
that to just, you know, to throw away, and I don't want to say throw away, because I'm sure there are benefits to being in the
For
union,
sure,
you know, but
opportunities, as we talked about, studios come,
yeah,
you're on that short list.
well, maybe if I don't know, it's very gray, it's very you know, gray in that area, and for me, you know, I'm not in the union, but I'm still sustaining myself, you know, and if an opportunity comes to join the union, would you join it if there's only one union job that's coming to the district a year, you know? But then that comes back to the incentives, like what incentives are there to even film in the DMV, you know? And so we don't really have big studios like, you know, LA or Atlanta and different.
You're talking about soundstage studios, not just like studios from like the like Universal like studio, if you will, but more so like a soundstage studio, parking lot, like all the infrastructure in those lines.
Exactly. So if it doesn't exist, and you know those things aren't here, what incentive do people have to even put up that big money to join the union, and then to keep up with the dues if there's no work coming, you know? So maybe if the incentives were there for the studios, and then the studios were inclined to come, then, you know, at that point, people will be inclined to join the union, and then the work could flow. So it's
still comes back to the incentive. So your point from the jump of this conversation, part of it comes back to the policy.
Yeah, I think so.
Not the creative. Like, not if again people flush the entertainment industry with $5 million and attributed that to, say, 6 directors or 6 writers to go make 10 films. And out of nowhere now, this area has a machine of 10 films kind of rolling. Yeah. Obviously, it's not 400 films, but it's like if we start putting money into a pot, maybe this is still policy, you start putting money into a pot that is able to be drawn down to make certain films and to be approved by a committee or whatever the case is, some type of like infrastructure on those lines of like approval of funding. Yeah. That the states, Maryland, Virginia, and D.C., are putting into to help prop up this business in this area. I know there's like tax incentive money set aside. Yeah. There's tax incentives to attract people. But what if we just ended up having like a set aside just for local, which Maryland does. But do you think that will start bringing more people in or start producing more stories? Because I wonder if it's just a lack of stories coming from this area too.
I mean, I think there are screenwriters here as well. You know, I think that could be what is needed to get the engine started. But you know, PG County Film Office, DC Film Office, they exist, and they want to partner with filmmakers. So, you know, shout out to them. They're pushing. You know, and you know, filmmakers like Leon. You know, with What a Weekend. You know, he's spearheading and you know working behind the scenes to make these things come to pass, but it's a slow engine, you know.
Slow burn. Rome wasn't built overnight, so exactly. You know, we're good there.
Yeah.
Said your end goal was directing.
Yes.
Writing and directing. Yeah. That's still the end goal, right?
Yeah. Man.
How are you balancing that with A-scene these days?
So, A-scene pays the bills. I do that more often than not. I'm grateful for it and learn a lot from it, doing it. You know, so in that downtime, you write. You know, in that downtime, you work with different producers, and you know, you continue to hone in on your skills, whether that be attending a certain class to better your skills as a director, watching film, which I think is one of the best ways to learn from the greats who've come before us. And I think that's kind of just been my process, like taking classes, honing my skills, going back over things that I've done and trying to get better at the craft. Coming together with my creatives in the community, doing a pitch please, trying to figure out how we can keep flexing that muscle.
It's kind of a random question, honestly. I feel like I just asked, but I'm going to put that into a different part of the conversation once it edit. Anyway, before I wrap up, before I give a couple questions to Sed here, because I'm sure he has some just brewing over there. Last question I always ask everyone. Why is filmmaking important to you?
I know filmmaking is important to me because it allows us to tell our stories. I think it's one of the most powerful methods of storytelling because you're able to reach so many people and it lives on forever. When you're gone, it's still here. It still speaks for you. It still speaks for our culture, our community. So telling our stories and then creating more room for the next generation to do the same. So pulling back the curtain and the gatekeeping on the process of filmmaking is my goal, to simplify it and make it easier for the next person that is hungry. Like for me, for example, like what I went through to get to where I am now, it was difficult. It wasn't easy. It wasn't an easy route. But if there's another filmmaker who's hungry, who's coming out of college or who's young and says, oh, I want to make a movie, I want to do that, like you should be able to do that, in the DMV. If you shouldn't have to move to a different state or country to get that done. And I think that if I can be successful in bridging that gap and simplifying it for the next generation, I feel like I would have been successful.
I feel like you're well on your way with that.
Thanks, bro.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm going to pause there. Sed.
Yes, sir.
Do you have a question, Sed?
How would you describe your directorial voice or signature style? And are there any filmmakers who influence that voice?
Yeah. So I think that my signature style, my voice, which stems from the reason why I even started writing it initially, is I don't want to only focus on comedy, but I'm gonna say like laugh at my pain, because as a creative, as a Black individual, there are things that us as people of color can relate to, and you realize that we have a lot in common, and a lot of times the things that we experience, that we growing up with, it's easier to deal with, when you laugh at it, because you can't really change it in certain circumstances. So I think it's a form of medicine for me, and that's how I spark change, make a difference, and heal myself at the same time.
What do you find most challenging and most rewarding about writing stories that you later direct yourself?
The writing process itself is the most challenging, I would say, because, just storytelling in general is not easy when it comes to like script to screen. I think that it's a skill, it's an art, it's a craft that anyone can't just get up and do. You need to. There's a format, and you can work outside the lines, but there's a format that you need to follow, and you need to perfect that and understand it and learn it, and then have the discipline that it takes to get it to the point and polish it. It's not, Rome isn't built in a day, and I think it's the same way when it comes to writing. If you want your work to shine and impact and make a difference and people to love it, everyone isn't going to love it, your work at the end of the day. You're in a vulnerable state, but it's not easy to get to that point where you can finally put it down and say, yes, I'm done, And so writing has been challenging for me in that, but I think that what will be rewarding is seeing it after that time that I've put in, knowing that it wasn't all in vain, you know, knowing that this story, this part of me that I spilled out on this paper, others can relate to it and they are healed from it because I'm speaking to the pain and the things that they've gone through and know that they're not in it alone, you know?
All right, so my last question is, what's the most unexpected lesson on set that continues to serve you creatively?
The most unexpected lesson on set. Tamika Miller is I would say I think she's the second director that I had the opportunity to AC for. And at the time I was, you know, still hungry, but I was hungry. I was like, oh my gosh, like it's great having the opportunity to work with you and you know, just seeing this Black woman, you know, run the set in such an efficient way. And I'm a fan of her work. And I asked her, like, what is like the biggest lesson that I could learn from or take away from you as a director on my path to becoming a director? And she said, be intentional. Just like that. She said, be intentional. She's like, if you're intentional about who you want to be and what you want to do, you will be successful and everything that you want will come to you if you're intentional. And it stuck with me ever since that day. And shout out to her for believing in me and supporting me and speaking to me and encouraging me. And I hope that encourages someone else, you know, be intentional. Like, don't just do it for the money, you know, don't just do it for the fame. Like, be smart with where you want to go. And if you're intentional, you'll get there.
And the stories you tell, I assume, too. Be intentional.
Yeah.
Well, Alan, thank you. Glad we got a chance to catch up on the couch, talk,
Sure.
get to know each other a little bit more. And did you get a chance to share your story a little bit?
Thanks, bro. Appreciate the opportunity.
Oh, of course, man.